Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's The Hindu News Analysis. In today's news analysis, we'll be discussing about 9 important news articles covered in the Hindu newspaper today. Coming to the first article, government to boost infrastructure in areas along China border. To ramp up infrastructure along the China border, the Ministry of Home Affairs had decided to spend 10% of a centrally sponsored scheme only on projects in Ladakh, Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Sikkim. So, what is the centrally sponsored scheme? The name of the scheme is the Border Area Development Program. So, under this, around 784 crore has been allocated in the fiscal year 2020-21, and this money is distributed to the border states and union territories depending on various criteria. Which all are those criteria? One is the length of the international border and the population. In the last year, it was the money allocated was around 82 825 crore. So, according to the new guidelines approved by the Home Ministry, the project for developing strategically important villages and towns in the border areas that have been identified by the border guarding forces will be given priority. So, who will be choosing the areas? Villages and towns for the area, development. It will be the border guarding forces. So here we have to know which all are the border guarding forces of various borders. For example, with Pakistan, the border guarding force is BSF, right? Border Security Force. And coming to China, the border guarding force is Indo-Tibetan Border Force, right? ITBP. Coming to Nepal and Bhutan, the border guarding forces SSB, Sashastra Seema Bell, right? And coming to Myanmar, the border guarding forces Assam Rifles, right? So even Bangladesh, it is BSF. So we should be clear about which all are the border guarding forces of with different countries. Also, which all are the approved projects in this BADP, that is Border Area Development Program? The approved projects are construction of the roads, bridges, culverts, primary schools, health infrastructure, play fields, irrigation works, mini stadiums, indoor courts for basketball, badminton, and table tennis can be undertaken within 10 kilometer of the border. So these projects should be within 10 kilometer of the border. So that is what is being talked about. And which all are the areas which are having a border with China? They are Ladakh, Arunachal Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Sikkim. Okay, so that is all about this news. Coming to the second news article, NGT holds LG Polymers India liable for the loss of life. So we have already seen that there was a styrene gas leak which had happened in Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh, which has resulted in the death of many and thousands were hospitalized, right? So this styrene gas leak happened when the LG polymer plant was reopened after the lockdown, and the case was in National Green Tribunal as of now. So initially the National Green Tribunal had asked the LG polymer plant to pay 50 crore as interim compensation. Now the NGT is telling that LG Polymer of India is liable for the loss of life. The National Green Tribunal held that the LG Polymers India has absolute liability for the loss of life caused by a gas leak at its factory in Andhra Pradesh, Visakhapatnam. So which is this gas? The gas is styrene. Okay, it said that the rupees 50 crore in compensation deposited by the company would be spent on restoration. So the NGT had already appointed a committee. So the report by the committee is out now. The committee has opined that the company did not take proper care of the storage tank, resulting into auto polymerization of the styrene, releasing excess heat which escaped from the gooseneck and dip hatch in the form of vapor. So usually the styrene is stored as a liquid. Okay, so what happened is due to the extended period of the lockdown, it was stored in the tank for a long time, and temperature changes had happened, and due to this temperature changes, auto polymerization happened. This liquid got converted into vapor and it escaped through the out of the company, causing the death of many people. So this is what happened. So here you have to focus on what styrene is used for. So usually styrene is used for the preparation of many household utensils like plastic glasses and all, plastic glasses, fork and all, plastic forks. So in all this, styrene gas is used for the preparation of all this. So anyway, so this the reason for this is the auto polymerization due to the temperature changes in the chamber. Also, the NGT also found that the LG polymer plant was operating without the requisite environmental clearances. So these are the reasons why the NGT has holded the LG Polymers India liable for the loss of life. Coming to the next news article, Cabinet Note for Agri Marketing Reforms. So we have seen that in the fourth tranche of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, the government, the finance minister had told many reforms which were relating to majorly agricultural marketing, right? So which all were those three reforms? One was to invest in farm grade infrastructure. The second was regarding the amendment of the Essential Commodities Act, and the third one was regarding the contract farming, right? Now the union cabinet has approved an amendment. So the union cabinet has approved some of these amendments. Which all are those? The union cabinet has approved an amendment to the 65-year-old Essential Commodities Act, removing cereals, pulses, oilseeds, edible oil, onions, and potatoes from the list of essential commodities. So earlier, these six kinds of items used to be under the essential commodities, and they were regulated by the government. So what all were the regulations? The regulations were regarding its price, the stocks which has to be taken by the government, how much can be exported and all, right? So farmers had less freedom regarding the marketing of these six kind of items. Now what the government has done, the government has deregulated it. When the government deregulates it, more freedom will be getting to the farmers in the sale marketing of this produce. After its meeting on Wednesday, the cabinet also approved ordinances to remove restrictions on farmers selling their produce outside the notified market yards, as well as to facilitate contract farming and allow farmers to engage in direct marketing. So these are the other two ordinances. Okay, so since these are ordinances, this becomes very important from the prelims perspective. So we already said that these were announced as under the Atmanirbhar Abhiyan package. Now, coming to the Essential Commodities Act. So this will deregulate. This amendment will deregulate the production, storage, movement, and distribution of these food commodities. By this, the center hopes to increase private and foreign investment, especially in cold storage facilities and modernization of the food supply chain. So this will also reduce the wastage and increase income for the farmers. So now the government has not completely deregulated it. There are some exceptions. If there is a war, famine, extraordinary price rise, and natural calamity, then definitely the government can again regulate these six kind of items. Now coming to the second ordinance, it is the Farming Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Ordinance 2020. So what will this aim? The second ordinance aim to? It will open up agricultural marketing outside the notified mandis for farmers and also remove barriers to interstate trade. So earlier we knew that the farmers were limited to sell their produce in the APMCs, that is the mandis, right? APMC yards or the mandis. Now this ordinance will deregulate and allow the farmers to sell their produce outside the mandis, and it also removes the barriers to interstate trade. So we all know that agriculture is a state subject, right? But here what the central government has tried to do is, the central government told that, see, this is right, this is related to agriculture and marketing, but this is also related to trade and commerce in food stuff, which is a part of the concurrent list. So if something is a part of concurrent list, then definitely the central government can bring ordinances or laws regarding it, right? So it's not only a part of agriculture and market, which is a part of only state subject, right? So this is the loophole which central government has utilized in order to legislate on the subject. Also coming to the other, huh, also the industry sources suggest that 60% of the agriculture trade already take place outside the mandis through unregulated sales. So anyway 60% is taking place outside the mandis, then why not just legalize it? So that is the logic of this Farming Produce Trade and Commerce Ordinance of 2020. Also there's another ordinance, the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Service Ordinance 2020. So it is aimed at facilitating contract farming. So what is contract farming? Contract farming is a mechanism where a private buyer contracts to purchase a crop at a certain price at the beginning of a season. So there will be a buyer and there will be a seller. So the seller is the farmer usually, and the buyers are usually the huge corporates. So there will be a direct agreement between the farmer and the corporates. There will be a contract of buying this much amount of produce at a predetermined rate and of a predetermined quality. So that is contract farming, right? So this has also been announced under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So that so the cabinet has announced a ordinance of it. But the farmers have expressed concern that the corporates benefit more than the small farmers from such direct marketing measures and wish to see the specific provisions of the ordinance before welcoming it. So this is one of the issue of contract farming. See, here the buyer is big corporates and the seller is farmers. So there is inherently a power imbalance, right? The farmers may not be aware of the legal procedures, the legal terms which are included in the contract and all, right? So here the farmers are telling that the corporates might benefit much more due to this corporate farming act. So the farmers, they decline to comment till the specifics of such ordinance is clear. So that is all about this news article. Now coming to the next news article, nation's name plea can be sent to center, Supreme Court. So what is the issue here? Some people have filed a petition which said that the name India should be removed, and India should be named as Bharat completely. So, and the petition went to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court on Wednesday ordered that a plea to change India's name exclusively to Bharat be converted into a representation and forward to the union government for appropriate decision. So, the Supreme Court has told to forward it to the central government. Also, the Supreme Court opined that Bharat and India are both names given in the constitution. India is already called Bharat in the constitution, right? So, we know, if you have read the constitution, we it starts like this, like India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of it starts like that, right? So India, that is Bharat, like both the names are included in the constitution. So the petitioner said that India is a name of foreign origin. The name can be traced back to the Greek term indica, whereas the word Bharat is closely associated to our freedom struggle, because the cry was Bharat Mata Ki Jai, right? So the petition seeks an amendment to Article 1 of the Constitution, which says that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. It wants India be struck off from the article. So this will so the proposed amendment is for the, I mean the petition is to amend the Article 1. So the court has dismissed a similar petition in 2016. The then Chief Justice of India, T.S. Thakur, had said that every Indian has the right to choose between calling his country Bharat or India. So this is the right decision, right? Every Indian has the freedom to call the country as India or Bharat. If people want to call it India, let them call India. People want to call it Bharat, let them call Bharat. Because both the names are in the constitution, right? What is the need of just striking off the name India and just completely naming the country as Bharat? It's like, it's of no use, right? So these are some of the stupidest petitions at an inappropriate time, right? The world is facing COVID pandemic, and some people are worried about changing India's name to Bharat, which doesn't have any basis, right? Also, in another naming scenario, Kolkata Port has been renamed after Syama Prasad Mukherjee. The Union Cabinet on Wednesday approved the renaming of Kolkata Port as Syama Prasad Mukherjee Port after the founder of the Bharatiya Jana Sangh. So this is another renaming in a series of renaming which is happening in the country. So here, from the prelims perspective, you have to go through the contributions of Syama Prasad Mukherjee. Who is he? What are his contributions? Even for the mains perspective, you should be having some important contributions of him noted as keywords. Okay. Since there is a lot of talk on Syama Prasad Mukherjee, it might come as an important topic from the prelims as well as the mains perspective. So that is all about this news. Okay, the statement also said while major ports in the country were named after the city or town where they are located in, some ports in special cases of due consideration of contribution made by eminent leaders have been renamed after great national leaders in the past. So that is what the justification given by the government. Coming to the next news article, India slams defacement of rock carvings in Gilgit-Baltistan. So where is this Gilgit-Baltistan? It is a part of the Pak-occupied Kashmir. It is a northernmost part of the erstwhile Kashmir, right? So now it is under the control of Pakistan. So, issue is that India has reacted strongly to reports of vandalism and defacement of ancient Buddhist rock carvings in Gilgit-Baltistan under Pakistan's control. So, Pakistan is as of now dismantling the invaluable Indian Buddhist heritage there. So these are the areas which these are the Indian territories under the illegal occupation of Pakistan. So this statement has brought into focus the rich Buddhist heritage of region found in the rock carvings and engravings, especially in areas like Hansa. So these are the areas which were part of the which had connections with the erstwhile connections with Ladakh and Tibet and all. We all know that Ladakh, Tibet and all are centers of Buddhism, right? So this Gilgit-Baltistan also had connections with them, and they have Buddhist heritage in them, which is being vandalized by Pakistan as of now. So the project which is involved here is the Diamar Bhasha hydropower project that the Chinese and the Pakistani companies will construct nearby. The locals has also opposed it, telling that it may endanger the invaluable Buddhist heritage there. So that is all about this. Please go through the map of Gilgit-Baltistan where it is located and all. Okay. So yeah. Now coming to the editorial of the day, 7 to 11. So the editorial is regarding the plan by the United States to expand the G7 countries to include four more countries, right? So dismissing the current configuration of the group of seven or G7 of the world's most developed nations. So G7 is a group of the world's most developed nations. It includes mostly the rich nations, right? As yesterday we have discussed which all are the G7 nations. Which all are they? One is the US, Canada, then four in the European Union. They are Italy, France, Germany, and UK, and in the Asian countries it is Japan, right? So these are the seven countries which are included in the G7 countries. We all know that Russia was a part of the G8, but after the annexation of the Crimea, Russia was taken away from the G8. It was ousted from the G8, and the grouping came to be known as G7 now. So, as of now, the US president announced over the weekend that he would like to expand it to G11, from G7 to G11. So, which are the four countries which Trump wants to include? They are India, Russia, South Korea, and Australia. So, Donald Trump has given invitations to the leaders also. So, the news was welcomed by Mr. Modi, who commended Mr. Trump for his creative and far-sighted decision to expand the format of the grouping to keep up with the realities of the post-COVID world. So, Indian Prime Minister has welcomed the offer. Also, countries like Australia and South Korea have also welcomed the invitation, while Russia, that lost its membership in the grouping in 2014 over its annexation of Crimea, said Putin would attend if only treated as an equal. So the notable absence in this group is the country, that is China. China is not being invited here. Usually what used to happen is earlier when G8 summits used to happen, five countries were invited, and that grouping was called G8 plus 5. The meetings were called G8 plus 5. So which all were this five countries? It was China, India, Brazil, Mexico, and South Africa. So these five countries were regularly invited to the G8 summits earlier, but as of now China is being avoided. Why they are avoided? Because the US China tensions, particularly over the coronavirus issue, clearly played a part in Mr. Trump's decision to leave Chinese President Xi Jinping off its summit guest list. Also, because of being avoided here, the Beijing has lashed out at the G11 idea as one that would be doomed to fail. Also, the proposed G11 grouping would recognize India's place among the world's richest nations and acknowledge its global voice. So, as a host, Mr. Trump can invite any country as a G7 special invitee. So, uh, this present G7 summit is about to happen in US. So as a host, Donald Trump can invite any countries, but changing its composition, changing the composition of G7 from G11 will require the approval of the other members also. So US cannot unilaterally decide on that issue whether G7 can be expanded to G11. So the other countries, the other six countries in the group also should agree to it. Already there are some concerns over Russia which could derail the entire G11 plan. So the other countries, especially the European countries, are not much interested in including Russia in the G11. Okay, so that can actually stall the process of creating a G11. Anyway, it is unclear when the summit will actually be held, given the fact that US will be conducting the presidential polls in November, right? So even that is not clear when the summit will be conducted. So despite its border tensions with, also coming to India, despite its border tensions with Beijing, India must also consider its objective in attending a grouping that appears to aim at fueling a new Cold War between US and China. So India should be very much apprehensive. India should actually do a proper evaluation of the G7's effectiveness as a multilateral forum. So only after, and it should also balance between US and China, right? So it should not just jump into the G11 thing. It should actually evaluate the benefits which India might get from this summit and take a proper decision rather than just going into the side of US at a time when a new Cold War is about to happen. So that is what the editorial talks about. Coming to the article, India's parliament is missing in the action. So we all know that India presently the government is completely under the control of the executive, right? India is ruled by the executive as of now, whereas the parliament, the Indian legislature is not at all being involved due to the COVID-19 lockdown, which is happening. But the article says that parliaments in democracies around the world are meeting and questioning the governments in the responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. For example, Canadian parliament has been convened, British parliament has been convened, France, Italy, Argentina, Brazil, Australia, and New Zealand, they also were able to convene their parliament. Several other countries have held sessions either with physical distancing norms or video conferencing or a combination of two. But India's parliament, which prides itself as the apex representative body of the world's largest democracy, is a notable absentee from the list. So India has not convened its parliament as of now, right? So parliament has a central role in our system of governance. It is the institution that checks and challenges the government of the day. So B.R. Ambedkar has said that India adopted a parliamentary form over the presidential system of governance because the parliamentary system is better at holding the government to account on a daily basis through questions, motions, and debates. So this is the main role of the parliament, right? Keeping the legislature accountable for its actions on a daily to daily basis. And which all are the tools which can be used for it? There are many tools like question hour, motions can be used, debates can be done. So these are the various tools by which the parliament keeps the executive in under account, right? Also, national laws are made by the parliament. The current steps made by the central government are being taken under the Disaster Management Act, which was not designed to handle epidemics, right? So, as we all know, the central government is fighting the COVID-19 pandemic using the Disaster Management Act. So, this DM Act of 2005 is not designed for uh, handling the pandemics. Why this act is being used then? Because no other law that provided with the powers to impose a lockdown across the country, which was needed to arrest the spread of the disease. So the only this Disaster Management Act provided the freedom, provided the power to the central government to impose a lockdown. But there was another way, right? The national lockdown was announced. It could have been passed through an appropriate act by the parliament. The parliament could have passed a pandemic act, right? But that didn't happen because the parliament was not at all convened. Also, the constitution requires all the expenditure by the government to be approved by the parliament. So this is very significant given the fact that the central government has already announced 20 lakh crore rupees, which amounts to around 10% of the GDP under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. But the constitution says that all the expenditure of the government should be approved by the parliament, but the parliament is not being convened as of now. So also the government So this announcement has not been subjected to the parliamentary scrutiny or approval, right? Also, there is a role for the MPs also. The MPs have a duty to shape the policy and guide the government in national interest, but without the parliament being convened, the members of the parliament cannot discharge their duties. Then there is a large humanitarian question of mitigating the impact on the most vulnerable sections of the population, both in urban and poor, rural areas. The parliament is the forum where such issues should be discussed and a plan of action agreed upon. But the parliament is not convened. So there's a question of a secure connectivity, right? If video conferencing and all is happening, what is the security of that? Now, coming to answer the question of security and secrecy may come up. The meetings of the houses are usually telecast live. Anyway, it is telecast live, right? So there is no issue of confidentiality regarding the procedures of the houses. But committee meetings, which are usually held in secrecy, they may require secure remote working tools. Given the large global corporations as well as parliamentary committees of several other countries seem to have solved this problem, then definitely there is no reason that the Indian Parliament cannot adapt these solutions. All district quarters are linked with fiber optic lines. So even if there is a problem of connecting the constituency office of MPs, they could use such government facilities, right? So every headquarters, they have this video conferencing facilities, high speed internet and all. Then definitely the MPs can utilize this, and video conferencing can be done to convene the parliament. Over the last 3 months, the central and the state governments have issued over 5,000 plus notifications to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. The appropriateness of these circulars need to be examined by the parliament and its committee, because as per the democracy, parliament is the uh, organ which should hold the executive, which should hold the government of the day accountable for its actions, right? So this scrutiny of the parliament is missing. So India prides itself on being the world's largest democracy, as well as the information technology provider to the world, right? So India is very proud of its software technologies, information technology. So it is imperative that the country harnesses its country's IT strengths to buttress the credentials as a performing democracy. So India can definitely use its IT tools to show to the world that India is a actual democracy. Coming to the next article, in Himalayans tear down the dilemmas for Delhi. So again, this is related to the issue across the LAC between India and China. So which all are the areas under the across the LAC where the issues are happening? They are Pangong So Lake in Ladakh, Demchok and Galvan Nala in Ladakh, and Nakula Pass in Sikkim, right? So coming to the article, the growing number of reports about the Chinese troop across the disputed line of actual control with India in the Ladakh region indicate that a new age of Chinese aggression against India is happening. So, the recent spate of the territorial transgression by the People's Liberation Army is unprecedented in its scope and manner. So, this has been like the most aggressive campaign done by the Chinese army, right? Also, China's growing territorial aggression on the LAC signals the end of Beijing's peaceful rise and its traditional desire to maintain regional status quo with India. Now, China wants more aggression to happen. What baffles most observers is the rationale behind the Chinese escalation on LAC, especially at the time when the world is preoccupied with the battling with the COVID-19, right? Also, there can be many reasons. Some of these reasons are now the global political scenario is being distracted because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and China sees this as an opportunity. Also, another fact is that international pressure is there on China to come clean on the origins of the novel coronavirus, whether it is designed in a laboratory or not. So China doesn't want such kind of investigations to happen. Also, in last August, New Delhi has told about Aksai Chin following the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act in August, right? So, Aksai Chin is a part of Jammu and Kashmir, which is under the control of China. So, it is in the Chinese side of the LAC. And the Home Minister in last August had told about Aksai Chin. So, this might have pressurized China to increase its aggression towards India. So, this is a chance. Also, there's another reason. New Delhi has been carrying out the construction of the infrastructure projects along the LAC. For example, there are construction of roads like Daulat Beg Oldi Road, DBO Road across in Ladakh and all. So these infrastructural construction can also might also have provoked China. We should know that China has already constructed infrastructure in their side. Then why can't India construct it, right? Also, China-Pakistan economic corridor connectivity to Pakistan through the Karakoram and New Delhi's criticism of it, and later New Delhi denied to join the Belt and Road Initiative of China, right? So this can also be another reason why China is showing aggression to India. So, having given up its traditional slogan of peaceful rise, China under Mr. Xi is beginning to assert itself as the next global superpower. And yet, by opening a limited military front with India on LAC, China is also signaling that it can handle pressure. So we know that China is involved everywhere. China is having issues everywhere in the world as of now. It is having issues with the US. It is having issue in Hong Kong. It is having issue in Taiwan. It is having issue in South China Sea. It is having issues in World Health Organization. It is having issues against Australia, and it is having issues against European Union. There is no area in this world where China doesn't have an issue with. But again, with creating more issues with India, China is showing that how much ever issues we have, we are ready to create more issues. That is the kind of attitude which China is having, right? And coming to the Doklam history, in the 2017 standoff between India and China at the Doklam Tri-Junction was the first major military standoff between the two sides in a long time, in which New Delhi demonstrated it was not a military pushover despite China's conventional superiority, right? So in Doklam crisis, India didn't back off. So this also might have created issues for China. This also have created fears for China, right? So the author is also telling that picking a direct fight with India might lead to an undesirable military escalation. With India does not suit Beijing's interest, but carrying out minor military expeditions with the objective of inflicting small-scale military defeats on India is precisely what would the Chinese political and military leadership want, because they are cost effective, less escalatory, and the message gets conveyed. So China doesn't have want big issues, but they want small issues like this to happen so that India can be put on pressure. And yet there are limits to China's LAC adventurism. There are several places along the several thousand kilometer along LAC where the Chinese military is weak, right? And India army has the upper hand in many areas across the LAC, and therefore a tit for tat military campaign should be undertaken by New Delhi. So if China is creating issues to us across the LAC, then India also create back issues across the LAC where the Chinese military is weak, right? So that is how India should respond, not by just in a defensive position, but India should show a bit more aggressive position. Second, while China enjoys continental superiority over India, maritime domain is China's weaker spot, right? In particular, Beijing's commercial and energy interest, to which the maritime space is crucial. For example, China is dependent on like Indian Ocean, the Malacca Straits and all for its energy needs and all. So India has a more power in this area. So India should actually utilize these areas to pressurize China. Finally, and most importantly, would Beijing want to seriously damage the close to $100 billion trade with India with its military adventurism on the LAC? See, if China is creating issue for us, then we should also create back issues to China. So that should be the way forward, right? But ensure that this creation of issues does not escalate also. So India should neither back off nor escalate the issue. India should show that aggression, that minimal aggression which is necessary to put China on pressure, right? So that should be done by India. The time has come to checkmate Beijing's military aggression, even as we maintain a robust economic relationship with our neighbor. It is also a reminder for us to get more serious about finalizing a border agreement with China. The bigger the power differential between India and China, then more concessions Beijing would be demanding from New Delhi to settle the dispute. So India should not accept Beijing's attempts at land grabs or military intimidation. That China is a rising superpower located next door to us is a reality. But how we deal with China with that reality is a choice that we must make as a nation. We shouldn't be seen as cowards, right? We should be putting some aggression and some pressure on China. So that is what this article talks about. Coming to the other articles, Curves and recoveries, page 6. This editorial talks about India's success in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, especially in the areas of fatalities, which is less than 3%, and coming to the high amount of recoveries, which is presently around 48%. So you can read this article, as well as coming to the second article, time to continue free power for farmers. So this talks about the power subsidies and the need to control the power subsidies, because the power subsidies, the free power, is resulting into wastage of water as well as electricity because of the misuse of it, right? So read these two articles in page 6 and page 7. So that's all for today's news video. I hope you like the video. Please press the like button, share, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with your friends. Have a great day. Thank you.